Okay, we have one of the signs left. And I'm mentioning it last, even though it is not actually the last, but it helps explain the last days of mankind. This is before the Dabba and before the sun rising from the west. And the 10th sign is the great fire, Nar, the great fire. And the great fire is not mentioned in the Quran, but it is mentioned in numerous ahadith. Of them, the famous one is Sahih Muslim, that Qiyamah will not come until you see 10. And in this hadith he said, and the last of them, the great fire. So there shall be something called the great fire. What is this great fire? Combining all of the hadith together, it appears that the great fire is something that will begin from Yemen. To be more precise, from Aden. In one hadith it says from Aden, which is the port city of Aden. And it will force the people. It will force the people to flee from it. And they will be forced to go to Bilad al-Sham. So the fire will rage. Now, what will be the fuel of this fire? What will cause something that will scorch the earth 1 mile after the other and keep on going all the way from the tip of one side of the Arabian Peninsula all the way to the other side? And it is well known that in this land, most of it is nothing but sand. What will cause the fuel of this fire? Again, go back to some of the things I've been postulating, and Allah knows best. So, there shall be a great fire at the end of times. And it could be miraculous, it could be something that Allah Azza wa Jalla says, all of this is allowed. And the people will be forced to flee for their lives. They will be walking, they'll be riding, they'll be running, they'll be on camels. And they will have to stop to rest. Our Prophet ﷺ said, hadith is Sahih Muslim, Hudayfa ibn Usayd al-Ghifari said, one day the Prophet ﷺ came to us when we were sitting in a room and we were talking about the judgment. He said, judgment will not come until you see 10 signs. Now we come to the end of our classes. Once again, I go to these 10 signs. Number 1, this is not in order. Remember, he's just saying all of them are there. Number 1, the rising of the sun from the west. Number 2, the dukhan. Number 3, the dabba. Number 4, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Number 5, Isa ibn Maryam. Khuruj Isa ibn Maryam. Number 6, the Dajjal. Number 7, 8, 9, the 3 earthquakes. 1 in the east and 1 in the west and 1 in Jazirat al-Arab. And the last of them, number 10, is the Nar. That will come from Aden. And Aden is the famous city in Yemen. تَسُوقْ أَوْ تَحْشُرُ النَّاسِ. It will gather the people. تَبِيتُ مَعَهُمْ حَيْثُ بَاتُوا وَتُقِيلُ مَعَهُمْ حَيْثُ قَالُوا. And it will stop when they need to stop, and it will go when they're going to go. In other words, it is something that is truly miraculous, that it will force the people to flee, but in a manner that they can still rest a while. So they will go, because you cannot walk from Aden all the way to Bilad al-Sham except in 2-3 weeks. It's not going to be immediate. And in this course of time, people will be forced to rest. When they rest, the fire will rest with them. When they wake up, they'll be forced to move again until they stop, and they will continue to do this. Now, once again, it appears that these people are simply not believers, because other ahadith tell us that judgment will not come upon believers. And with respect to Bilad al-Sham, with respect to modern day, Syria, and again, when we say Sham, frankly, most likely it is Aqsa. When we say Sham, don't think of the modern country Syria, because that was what the classical Arabs call that entire region. But it might be Damashq, it might be Syria, but I'm saying technically all of that region is Bilad al-Sham. Our Prophet ﷺ one day, hadith is authentic, Muslim Ahmad, he pointed to the north, which is Bilad al-Sham, and he pointed to Sham, and he said, in that direction you will be gathered. In that direction is Ardul Mahshar. Ardul Mahshar. What is Ardul Mahshar? Ardul Mahshar is the land of resurrection. Now, does this mean that Qiyamah will take place in Sham? Because Mahshar is judgment day. The response is no. There are 2 types of Hashr. there is the final showdown, hashr of this dunya, and then there is the hashr of judgment day in the next life. بعد الموت, بعد the trumpet and whatnot. The hashr of this dunya, there is no qiyamah, it's just a death. And that's what he's talking about, the ard al-mahshar. All of the last remnants of mankind will be gathered in one place. All of mankind, whoever remains, will be gathered in one place. And that is why it is called what? Ardul Mahshar. What will that land be? Biladul Sham. Biladul Sham. And so they will continue to go there until finally they are all gathered in one place, and then the final very end of mankind will take place, and that is the trumpet being blown. And we'll talk about that right now, inshallah ta'ala. But before we get there, one of the things that has caused me to pause and contemplate for many, many years, and these are topics that I have been reading about and thinking about and reflecting about for literally 20 years of my life, thinking about these issues and whatnot. And one of the things that has caused me consternation, to say the least, is the fact that there seems to be absolutely no mention of lands and regions far away from that central areas. And the reason why this brings great consternation is because I happen to be living in some of those lands that are very, very far away and seem to have absolutely no mention whatsoever. It's as if everything is simply gone. All of the events, everything is now back to where civilization began. And I have no solid explanation, Allahu A'lam, other than to say the only thing, there are no humans left except in that region. And that is terrifying, even as it explains a lot about what we are reading. And Allah knows best. I don't know what to say. Really, I don't. There's no mention of any land, not even Africa, Egypt, China. These were names that the Arabs knew, the Prophet ﷺ knew. It's not as if we can say, okay, this land was quote unquote undiscovered. Okay, how about Egypt, Masr? Right? How about other lands? How about Sin and Hind? Nothing is mentioned at all. We're talking about the last days of mankind. We're talking about Isa and Mahdi and Dajjal. It's really this area and only this meaning. Which area? Bilad al-Sham in the Middle East overall. Hijaz, whatnot, Makkah, Medina, all that. It seems that will be the only region left. And at one level it does make sense. Because where are the big powers and where will things happen when they happen? At one level it makes sense. Allahumma sallim. At another level we say Allah knows best. I don't have an answer. But I have not found any reference of even a hint that there will be other places, things happening. Everything seems to be happening in the central region. And this is the region where everything began in the first place. Ibrahim, Ismail, even before Noah. This is where it all is, according to legend, even Adam. All of this is legend. But anyway, so Allah knows best. I don't have any answer to this.
أولم يكفهم أنا أنزلنا عليك الكتاب يتلى عليهم إن في ذلك لرحمة وذكرى لقوم يؤمنون قل كفى بالله بيني وبينكم شهيدا يعلم ما في السماوات والأرض والذين آمنوا بالباطل وكفروا بالله أولئك هم الخاسرون ويستعجلونك بالعذاب ولولا أجل مسمى لجاءهم العذاب وليأتينهم بغتة وهم لا يشعرون يستعجلونك بالعذاب وإن جهنم لمحيطة بالكافرين يوم يغشاهم العذاب من فوقهم ومن تحت أرجلهم ويقول ذوقوا ما كنتم تعملون يا عبادي الذين آمنوا إن أرضي واسعة فإياي فاعبدون كل نفس ذائقة الموت كل نفس ذائقة الموت ثم إلينا ترجعون والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لنبوئنهم من الجنة غرفا تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها نعم أجر العاملين الذين صبروا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون وكأي من دابة لا تحمل رزقها